Welcome to the deep dive. You've brought us quite a spooky collection this time.
Oh, yeah.
A Codex Mostrum.
Mm-hmm.
A catalog of creatures that go bump in the night.
Like a field guide to the things that go bump in the night.
It is.
Complete with descriptions.
Yes.
And a monster index rating their danger level and how often they appear.
And speaking of danger levels,
Yeah.
the first thing that jumped out at me
Uh-huh.
was that your copy is missing entry 10.
It is.
It's like a missing page in a horror story,
It really is.
leaving us with this
Yeah.
lingering question mark.
It's just like a cliffhanger
Yeah.
that we don't know if we'll ever get the answer to.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if entry 10 got loose or something.
Oh, hopefully not.
But before we get too sidetracked by what's missing,
Right.
let's dive into what we do have.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking creepy puppets, a lovesick bride,
Mm-hmm.
a cowboy zombie,
Oh, wow.
you name it. This codex seems to have it.
Yeah.
But before we get lost in all the spooky specifics,
Yeah.
could you just kind of give us a lay of the land
Sure.
on this monster index?
So the index categorizes monsters into classes from 0 to 4,
Okay.
with 0 being the most dangerous.
Got it.
Class 0, beyond salvation, implies being so powerful or malevolent that any encounter is essentially a death sentence.
So basically, if you see one of these,
Yeah.
just say your goodbyes
Pretty much.
and hope it's quick?
Yeah, I hope it's quick.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
What about class 1?
Class 1, avoid at all costs, suggests that while survival might be possible,
Okay.
it's highly unlikely.
Oh, so not quite game over,
Yeah,
but definitely not a fight you want to pick?
right.
Yeah.
These are the apex predators of the monster world.
Oh, wow.
Often with unique abilities that
Ah.
make them incredibly dangerous.
So even with preparation
Yeah.
and knowledge.
Even with all of that,
Yeah.
your chances are still slim.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then there's class 2.
Class 2, exercise caution, is where we start to see a bit more hope.
Oh.
These monsters are aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
but manageable with the right approach.
Oh, hey.
Knowledge, preparation,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps a bit of luck can turn the tides in your favor.
So with a bit of know-how
Right.
and maybe a silver bullet or two?
Yeah, or some holy water.
Yep.
You might actually stand a chance.
You might actually make it out.
It might make it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then we move on to class 3.
Class 3, moderately dangerous.
Okay.
These are creatures that are more likely to cause trouble than outright kill you.
Okay.
They might be territorial
Ah.
or pose a threat under specific circumstances.
So more like a neighborhood raccoon
Yeah, like a
that
regular.
gets into your trash
Exactly.
than a bloodthirsty werewolf.
Yeah, not as bad as a werewolf.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, we have class 4.
Class 4, unlikely to cause harm.
Okay.
These are the bottom of the food chain.
So the monsters you might actually consider having over for tea.
Yeah, if they weren't monsters.
If they weren't monsters, right?
Yeah.
More quirky than dangerous.
Right.
Maybe even have some endearing qualities.
Yeah, you might befriend one.
Okay, I think I've got a handle on the monster index now.
All right.
Let's get to the good stuff. The monsters themselves. We're going to go class by class,
Okay.
starting with those beyond salvation entities that
Yeah.
send shivers down your spine.
The worst of the worst.
You ready to face the ultimate nightmare?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I find even the most terrifying creatures fascinating from like an analytical perspective.
All right, so class 0, the doomed if you see it category. And there's only one entry here,
Okay.
and it's a chilling one. The voiceless.
The voiceless.
The Codex describes it as cursed, enraged,
Wow.
bitter.
Mm.
Even hell does not want the voiceless.
Ooh, that's a rough one.
Doesn't exactly paint a pleasant picture.
No, it does.
It suggests being consumed by pure rage.
Yeah, pure, unadulterated rage
And despair.
and despair.
Rejected even by the underworld.
Yeah, it's like too much even for hell.
Right. And the fact that it's classed as beyond salvation
Yeah.
and described as unstoppable
Right.
really paints this picture of like an existential threat.
Yeah, it really does.
Something beyond human comprehension
Right.
and control.
There's nothing you can do about this one.
And to make matters worse,
Uh-oh.
the Codex specifically states that encounters with the voiceless are rare.
Oh, really?
Talk about adding insult to injury.
So you're doomed if you see it.
You're doomed if you see it.
But chances are you never will.
Chances are you never will.
Oh.
It's like the universe is playing a cruel joke.
It's like a cosmic horror lottery that
Right.
you just don't want to win.
And you don't even know you're playing.
And you don't even know you're playing.
So let's move on to something slightly less terrifying, shall we?
Okay, sounds good.
Class 1. The avoid at all costs category.
Okay.
Here we find some truly notorious figures.
That I'm sure.
Let's start with the Hatter,
The Hatter
described as completely insane,
Oh, wow.
with a charm that masks a truly wicked nature.
Sounds dangerous.
So what makes the Hatter particularly dangerous is his ability to
Okay.
command others to his side.
Oh, so he's manipulative.
He's not just a physical threat.
Oh, wow.
He's a master manipulator,
Okay.
capable of twisting the minds of others and bending them to his will.
Oh, that's dangerous.
And you know what else I noticed?
What's that?
He's often found in the company of other monsters,
Oh, really?
like the Harlequin.
Oh, interesting.
So it's suggesting that he might be like a leader.
Like a ringleader.
Yeah, like a ringleader or an influencer
Yeah.
among them.
Yeah, so he's not just powerful on his own.
Right.
He can also influence others.
Exactly.
Do his bidding.
So a puppet master in the truest sense of the word.
That's scary.
And speaking of the Harlequin,
yeah.
it sounds like this terrifying blend of fun-loving and deadly. The Codex says he spares no one,
Oh.
but enjoys a good laugh while doing it.
So he's like a sadist.
It's like the dark side of a court jester.
Yeah, very dark side.
The laughter hiding a sinister intent.
I never know what his true motives are.
And if a crazed jester wasn't bad enough,
Oh, what else is there?
we've got the voodoo mage,
Oh, the voodoo mage?
obsessed with snakes,
Mm-hmm.
and not in a good way.
No, I wouldn't think so.
He uses his magic for some pretty sadistic purposes.
That's really disturbing.
It makes you think about the responsibility that comes with wielding power,
Absolutely.
whether it's magical or otherwise.
You have to be careful who you give power to.
The voodoo mage is a cautionary tale
He is.
about what happens when power falls into the wrong hands.
Exact.
And speaking of hands, the Codex mentions he's often accompanied by Nurse Pam,
Oh, Nurse Pam.
who, as we'll see
Right.
later,
Yeah.
has her own reasons for wanting to cause some serious harm. So they team up.
They do.
That's scary.
It's like having to face a two-headed hydra,
Oh, wow.
each head with its own unique venom.
That's a great analogy.
Next up in our avoid at all costs lineup
Okay.
is Lady Lenort,
Lady Lenore.
a vampire with a very particular and disturbing habit.
Okay, it's that.
She only appears after
After.
blood has already been spilled.
Oh, wow. So she doesn't cause the bloodshed.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah,
does she cause the bloodshed?
right.
Or is she drawn to it?
Maybe she's just waiting for the right moment.
It's like she's a shadow that only appears when the lights are already dimming.
That's creepy.
And speaking of shadows,
Okay.
let's not forget the Sister of the Night.
Oh, the Sister of the Night.
She lurks in the darkness
Uh-huh.
with her pet cat,
Okay.
using her entrancing gaze to lure victims.
Oh, that's dangerous.
And the Codex makes it clear
Mm-hmm.
that cat isn't just a cute companion.
Oh, no.
It devours the victims,
Oh, wow.
leaving no trace. So she's using the cat to clean up after herself.
It's like she preys on her own curiosity.
Yeah, our desire to see what's hidden in the darkness,
Right.
which can be dangerous.
A good reminder to be careful what you look for.
Exactly.
You might not like what finds you.
You might not like what you find.
Speaking of finding things,
Yeah.
let's move on to Class 2.
Okay.
Those monsters that require a bit more proceed with caution.
All right. So not quite as deadly,
Not quite as deadly. No.
but still dangerous.
Still dangerous.
Okay.
Ready to meet a few more of these fascinating creatures.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with Snothed.
Snout. Okay.
Now he's got a bit of a tragic backstory.
Oh, really?
His mouth was stitched shut after a nasty incident,
Oh.
and now he's out for revenge.
So he's bitter.
He is, particularly targeting elderly ladies.
Oh, that's specific.
It's like, what makes a monster isn't some supernatural force,
Yeah.
but the scars left by human cruelty.
The things that people do to each other.
But here's where things get a little strange.
Okay.
Despite his rage and bitterness,
Uh-huh.
he has a soft spot
Oh.
for shorter men and animals.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a good reminder
Yeah.
that even the most monstrous beings can retain fragments of their former self.
There's still some good in him.
Next up is the balloon clown.
The balloon clown.
He's a creature that embodies this unsettling juxtaposition
Okay.
of innocence and menace.
Uh-huh.
He supposedly has a love for children,
Love for children.
but also
Oh,
a large hunger.
Oh, large hunger.
I shudder to think what kind of balloons he prefers.
Yeah, that's unsettling.
What pops into your mind when you hear balloon clown?
Well, I mean, balloons are usually associated with joy
All
and
right.
celebration.
Exactly.
But in this context,
Yeah.
it becomes very sinister.
It's like those old horror movies where dolls come to life
Yes, exactly.
with a sinister agenda.
You never know what's lurking behind that smile.
I don't think I'll ever look at a balloon animal the same way again.
Me neither.
And then we have the bride,
The bride.
forever searching for her lost love
Uh-huh.
and hunting down married couples.
Oh, wow. So she's jealous.
It's creepy and strangely romantic in a twisted sort of way.
I guess so, yeah.
It makes you wonder if she found her lost love.
Yeah.
Would she finally find peace?
It's possible.
Or is she doomed to wander forever,
Yeah.
driven by a longing that can never be fulfilled?
That's a sad thought.
All right, speaking of doomed,
Oh.
let's talk about the cursed nun,
The cursed nun.
forsaken by her god and turned to the devil.
Oh.
She possesses children.
She possesses children.
Oh, that's scary.
Not exactly bedtime story material.
No, not at all.
Thankfully, holy water is her weakness. So there's that.
Okay, so there's a way to protect yourself.
There is.
Good to know.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
we have the Witches of the Black Sun.
Witches of the Black Sun.
They're willing to use human sacrifice.
Ooh. To get what they want, which is never a good sign.
That's never a good thing.
But here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
The Codex also mentions that they can be cooperative at times.
So maybe they're not all bad.
Maybe they're not all bad.
Okay.
Or maybe they're just really good at playing the long game,
Right.
using their charm to manipulate others into doing their bidding.
It's hard to know their true motives.
We should also mention Nurse Pam again here.
Oh, Nurse Can. Okay.
She's listed as a Class 2 on her own, but the Codex also says she often accompanies the voodoo mage.
Right.
Apparently she was tortured and killed by the voodoo mage,
Oh, wow.
then brought back to life
Oh, no.
with a serious thirst for revenge.
So she's angry.
It seems the world of monsters is
Yeah.
a cruel cycle of violence.
It's like a never-ending feud.
All right, so that wraps up our exploration of Class 2.
Wow.
A fascinating mix of the creepy, the tragic,
Yeah.
and the just plain weird.
It's a diverse group, for
Okay.
sure.
Ready to move on to the slightly less dangerous Class 3.
Let's do it. I'm curious to see what we've got.
I'm curious to see what kind of creatures lurk in this category.
Me too. Let's start with a creature
Okay,
that might sound deceptively harmless.
okay.
The puppet.
The puppet?
Don't let the name fool you.
Okay.
This little wooden figure,
Uh-huh.
often depicted as female, is
Yeah.
all about control and manipulation.
So we're not talking about a friendly Pinocchio here.
Not exactly.
Okay.
The Codex specifically warns against underestimating her. She might be small, but she loves to control people
Uh-huh.
and play games.
Play games.
And as we all know,
Yeah.
some games can have deadly consequences.
It's fascinating how the Codex uses the word games. What kind of games do you think a puppet would want to play?
Well, given her love of control,
Yeah.
I imagine her games involve manipulating others into compromising situations or enacting her will,
Oh, wow.
perhaps even turning them against each other.
Ooh, that's creepy.
It's a subtle but insidious form of power.
Okay, that's enough about creepy puppets for me.
All right, fair enough.
Let's move on to Claude Hood,
Claude of Wood, okay.
who has a backstory that's both tragic and terrifying.
Oh, really?
Blinded by rage and grief
Okay.
after being attacked by a wolf,
Oh, wow.
she wanders around stealing things into her basket.
Oh, so she's like a kleptomaniac.
It's a reminder that monsters aren't always born.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're created through pain and loss.
Right, through trauma.
The Codex describes her as mostly blind,
Mostly blind.
which means there's a chance she could still see a little, right?
A little, yeah.
It's almost creepier to think that she might catch a glimpse of you
Yeah.
before snatching something away.
Before you even know she's there.
Speaking of things we can't see,
Okay.
let's move on to the eyeless.
The eyeless, all right.
This one is particularly intriguing.
Okay, why is that?
He can see the future,
He can see the future.
but refuses to speak about it.
Oh, that's interesting.
And if you happen to know his secrets,
Yeah.
well, let's just say you won't be around to tell anyone.
Oh, so he's protecting his knowledge.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what's the point of seeing the future if you can't do anything to change it?
Maybe he can influence events,
Right.
but the consequences are just too terrible to contemplate.
It's like a classic Greek tragedy
Yeah.
where knowledge brings not enlightenment,
Right.
but suffering.
So it's a curse almost.
It is.
More than a gift.
Moving on to a creature shrouded in even more mystery.
Okay.
We have the beater.
The beater.
Not much is known about this one,
Right.
except that it's described as
Okay.
slow and clumsy,
Slow and clumsy.
and might be connected to something called the shape.
The shape?
The Codex doesn't elaborate on what the shape is,
Oh, really?
which kind of adds to the intrigue.
Yeah, it really does.
Wouldn't you say?
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
It is.
We get these tantalizing hints,
Uh-huh.
but we're left to fill in the blanks ourselves.
Speaking of terrifying,
Yeah.
I have to admit I'm a bit excited to talk about the next one.
Oh, really?
The cowboy zombie.
The cowboy zombie.
It's exactly what it sounds like.
Okay.
A classic zombie
Mm-hmm.
with a Western twist.
Oh, a Western twist.
It's like someone took the classic zombie trope
Yeah.
and gave it a Clint Eastwood makeover.
Oh, I like that.
I can already picture it.
Yeah.
Dusty saloons,
Uh-huh.
tumbleweeds rolling through deserted streets,
Mm-hmm.
and a lone cowboy zombie
Okay.
staggering towards you
Uh-huh.
with a six-shooter in his hand.
Ah, that's a great visual.
Okay, I think we've had enough of the heart-stopping monsters for now.
All right, I can understand that.
Let's take a breather and
Yeah.
move on to Class 4.
Okay.
The unlikely to cause harm category.
So, the least dangerous ones.
But just because they're not deadly
Right.
doesn't mean they're not interesting.
Exactly. Sometimes the most intriguing creatures
Yeah.
are the ones that challenge our expectations and make us question our preconceived notions of what constitutes a monster.
Let's start with the figure.
The figure.
A creature whose description evokes more amusement than fear.
Oh, really?
He's bald,
Okay.
has a menacing stature,
Uh-huh.
but only a few teeth.
A few teeth.
Sounds more like a grumpy grandpa than a monster.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
It's a reminder that there's often more to a creature
Mm-hmm.
than meets the eye.
Perhaps the figure is a gentle giant.
It's possible.
Or maybe he's just biding his time waiting for the right moment to strike.
You never know.
Next, we have a creature that brings us back to the natural world.
Okay.
The gorilla.
The gorilla.
The Codex doesn't elaborate much,
Okay.
just stating that it's an enraged animal.
Enraged.
It's a good reminder that we shouldn't underestimate the power of nature.
Absolutely.
Even a creature as familiar as a gorilla
Yeah.
can be a formidable foe when provoked.
Right. They're not to be trifled with.
And speaking of familiar,
Okay.
let's move on to a creature that's a staple of folklore
Uh-huh.
and horror stories.
Oh, okay.
The scarecrow.
The scarecrow.
The Codex describes it as weak and non-threatening,
Weak and non-threatening.
which seems a bit ironic given its name.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed to scare,
Right.
but it's not actually dangerous.
It makes you wonder if there's more to the scarecrow than meets the eye.
Yeah, maybe there's something else going on.
Maybe it's secretly plotting its revenge
Ah,
for all those years spent standing in a field being pecked at by birds.
maybe it's built up some resentment.
Moving on to another familiar figure,
Okay.
we have the skeleton,
The skeleton.
your classic reanimated bones.
Classic.
The Codex describes it as agile,
Agile.
but fragile.
You're fragile.
Not exactly a formidable foe,
Right.
but I imagine it could give you a good scare
Oh, yeah, definitely.
if you stumbled across it in a dark graveyard.
Especially at night.
Skeletons are a staple of so many myths and legends.
They are.
They seem to symbolize both the fear and the inevitability of death.
Right.
And finally, we have the explorer,
Maybe explore.
a creature that offers a surprising twist on the zombie trope.
Okay.
He's not a mindless, flesh-eating monster.
Oh.
He's just looking for company
Looking for company?
and wanders around with his pet dinosaur.
A pet dinosaur.
This one is actually kind of heartwarming.
Yeah, it is.
The fact that he has a pet dinosaur
Right.
adds a layer of whimsy and pathos to his story.
It's like he's still holding on to some shred of his former life.
It is.
Even though he's a zombie now.
It's a reminder that even in the face of monstrous transformations, there can be remnants of the individual's past,
Okay.
fragments of personality and experience that persist despite the change.
So there's still some hope,
There is.
even for the undead.
That missing entry 10 really adds another layer of intrigue to this whole codex, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like a
Yeah.
blank page in a horror story,
Uh-huh.
leaving you to imagine what might be lurking just beyond the edge of the page.
It makes you wonder if the creator of the Codex left it blank intentionally
Right.
as a warning
Ooh.
or a challenge to those who dare to seek further knowledge.
Maybe it's a creature so terrifying,
Right.
so beyond comprehension,
Mm-hmm.
that even attempting to describe it would drive you mad.
That's a thought.
Or perhaps it's a reflection of ourselves,
Ooh.
the monster within each of us,
Interesting.
that we refuse to acknowledge.
Yeah, it reminds us that the concept of monster is often subjective,
It is.
shaped by our own fears and experiences.
Right.
What one person considers a monster, another might see as a victim.
Right.
Or even a hero.
Thinking back on all the creatures we've discussed,
Yeah.
it's amazing how diverse they are.
It is.
Not just in their appearance and abilities, but also in their motivations.
Yeah, their motivations are all over the place.
Some are driven by pure malice,
Right.
while others are motivated by grief, revenge, or even a desperate need for connection.
It's a reminder that there's no single definition of what constitutes a monster.
If you had to choose one of these creatures to face,
Oh,
which would it be?
that's a tough one.
And how would you prepare?
I mean, facing a Class 0 entity, like, the voiceless seems like an exercise in futility,
Yeah.
a confrontation with an unstoppable force.
Right.
But perhaps against such overwhelming power,
Yeah.
the only defense is acceptance,
Wow.
a surrender to the inevitable.
It's a bit too existential for me.
Fair enough.
I think I'd rather face a creature I might actually have a chance
Yeah.
against, like the Scarecrow.
You're Scarecrow. Okay.
Sure, it might be weak and non-threatening,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd still approach it with caution.
Right. You never know.
Who knows what tricks it might have up its sleeve?
Exactly. Underestimating an opponent can be a fatal mistake,
Yes, it can.
whether you're facing a monster or navigating the complexities of everyday life.
This deep dive into the Codex Mostrum has really been an eye-opener.
It has been fascinating.
It's made me think about the nature of monsters in a whole new way.
Me too.
It's not just about fangs and claws.
Right.
It's about the darkness that can reside in any heart,
Yeah.
human or otherwise.
Well said. The Codex offers a glimpse into a world where the boundaries between the ordinary and the extraordinary are blurred,
It really does.
challenging our perceptions of reality and the nature of monstrosity itself.
But it also reminds us that even in the face of darkness,
Yeah,
there can be glimmers of hope,
absolutely.
empathy,
Mm-hmm.
and even humor.
Right. Some of these creatures are kind of funny.
It's been a wild ride full of chills and thrills,
It has been.
but also unexpected insights,
Yeah.
moments of reflection.
I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this menagerie of the strange and
The
spooky.
pleasure was all mine.
And to you, dear listener,
Yes.
thank you for sharing this incredible collection with us.
It's been a treat.
We hope you've enjoyed exploring the Codex Mostrum
I-
and maybe even learned a thing or two about the monsters that lurk,
Mm-hmm.
both within and without.
Absolutely.
Remember, the next time you hear a bump in the night,
Oh, yeah?
it might not be the wind.
No.
It might just be one of these creatures waiting to make your acquaintance.
Good night, everybody.
Until next time, keep exploring,
Yeah.
keep questioning,
Stay curious.
and remember,
What's that?
always leave a light on.